I'm going to talk to you about my experience with depression and my experience with sexual abuse, mental disorders, and overall mental health awareness. All of these things are important, and all of these things are no laughing matter. But today I might make you laugh, and that's okay. I was sexually abused, and for a long time I thought it was my fault. But you know what? It wasn't. Those were the decisions of others, bad decisions of others that affected me. It was not my fault. But it didn't feel that way. I learned a new coping mechanism. I learned to go inside myself. I was so scared that somebody would see how dirty and ugly I was. I went inside. I stopped laughing. I stopped smiling. And I started to fall into a depression. Let me tell you a little something about depression. Depression isn't wearing black clothes or being goth. It isn't being upset because your mom or dad wouldn't give you $50 to go buy those really hot stovepipe skinny leg jeans. Depression isn't just being a little sad. Depression is a mental disorder where you experience prolonged, persistent periods of inexplicable sadness. It is fatigue. It is disturbances in the way you sleep, in the way you eat. It can be suicidal thoughts. I remember looking in the mirror and thinking the world would be better if I wasn't around. All these things that were my fault would not be around if I wasn't in the world. And I decided to take my life. I decided to attempt suicide. When I got to the mental hospital, I realized that I had made a really bad decision. A bad decision. I began to care about something outside of myself. I began to care about my family, which is important. When you're dealing with a mental disorder, it's really important to care about something outside of yourself. And I cared about them, and I wanted nothing more than just to be with them. But I was in the mental hospital. So I had to get from point A to point B. And for me, that meant complying with my treatment. And for me, my individual treatment was therapy. It was talking. And because I wanted to be with my family and friends so bad, I began talking and talking. And I cried. And I cried. And sometimes it felt like it was worse, and sometimes I felt completely overwhelmed. But then it started to get better. Not right away. It took time, but it started to get better. I started to feel better than I did. I took responsibility for being strong and talking, because talking is strong. And I got out of the mental hospital. And I got to be with my friends and family. And I did something that I hadn't done in a very long time. I laughed. I laughed. But I had to keep talking. I still had to keep complying with my treatment because there was high school. I still had to figure out where I was. I still had to cope when things went wrong. But I learned how to cope better I learned that if something is bothering me or something hurts, I can't just go inside and deal. That I have to keep talking. We all have a responsibility to stop these stereotypes so people can talk. As I said, we all have a responsibility to let people know that mental health matters. Sexual abuse is not your fault. Having depression is not your fault. Having mental disorders isn't your fault. Having a mental health issue is not your fault.